endangered species. There's all these creatures that are just on the brink. And you can throw up your hands very easily and say, well, it's too big of an issue. But you know what? There's a few people doing great things.
Well, just give it a shot. There is a bird that exists right here in Florida that is considered the most endangered bird species in the U.S. And right now, efforts are being made to conserve that species. My name's Alex. I'm the host of The Great Outdoors. This is Good Morning Outdoors. If you like wildlife or conservation in general, be sure you cultivate that like button and help this channel grow so we can support wildlife conservation better. Let's get started. Bringing back the most endangered bird in the U.S. Now, this article was published by the National Geographic Society. Ashley Blackford has seen her share of dramatic bird releases over the years. She vividly recalls California condors soaring high in the sky and the San Clemente loggerhead strikes fluttering free. The tiny Florida grasshopper sparrow, yes, grasshopper sparrow, we'll get into why they call it the grasshopper sparrow, on the other hand, merely hopped out of an open screen and skittered along the ground, says Blackford, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service biologist.
We released the bird at the original site. That way.
It wasn't visually exciting, Blackford says, but it was emotionally exciting. It certainly is for me as well.
Florida grasshopper sparrow is a bird that's resident to Florida. Right now we're conducting a 3-year research project to try to figure out what some of the causes of decline are.
No more than 5 inches long, Florida grasshopper sparrows have flat heads, short tails, and black and gray feathers that camouflage their nest. Built in the low shrubs and saw palmettos of the state's grassy prairies, their name comes from their call, which consists of 2 or 3 weak notes followed by an insect-like buzz. Their range is right here, all throughout, from south of Tampa down through the Everglades. The Florida grasshopper sparrow was first described in 1902 by U.S. Army surgeon Major Edward A. Mearns. Back then, the birds were widespread across Central and South Florida. By the 1970s, though, most of the prairies that from their habitat had been ditched, drained, and converted to pastures for sod production. By 1986, that's the year I was born, the sparrow population had plummeted to mere 1,000. By 2013, fewer than 200 of the little songbirds remained. It's now 2021, y'all, and that was 2013. This is an emergency, and the situation for the species is dire, Larry Williams, head of the South Florida Office of Fish and Wildlife Service in Vero Beach, said at this time. It literally is a race against time. Too many, they're just little brown birds. They're not especially beautiful or exciting or awe-inspiring, and this is part of the challenge in saving them. Got a nice little picture of one, which is really inspiring. Just remember that you never know when a photo is the last known photo of a species, just like in the case with the ivory-billed woodpecker. And we're still facing these problems today. It's easy to rally support for a tiger or gorilla. Doing the same for the Florida grasshopper sparrow means you really have accomplished something. In terms of degree of difficulty, it's Mount Everest.
The reason that this bird is on the brink of extinction primarily has to do with the fact that so little Florida dry prairie exists.
In a last ditch to save the species, federal officials decided to launch a captive breeding program. Such programs are often expensive and labor intensive, and sometimes they don't work. In the 1980s, something similar happened with a relative to the Florida grasshopper sparrow, a bird called the Dusky Seaside sparrow. By the time federal officials decided to go ahead with the captive breeding, there were only 5 Duskies left. All of them were male, and the last one died in captivity at Walt Disney World in 1987. That was just 1 year after I was born. Sometimes we don't know why we're born, but sometimes if we follow our heart, we can figure it out. A breakthrough. No one had ever tried to breed Florida grasshopper sparrows before. In an attempt to minimize impact on the wild population, biologists decided to launch a recovery program to incubating and hatching eggs taken from nests, rather than bringing in adults to breed. "We know it's going to be hard," Williams said. At the start of the program in 2013, they're small birds living in dense vegetation and they're secretive by nature. To start, biologists practiced on surrogate species. They spent 3 years exploring captive breedings and rearing techniques on the eastern grasshopper sparrow, which is not classified as endangered. Only when they felt confident in their skills did they try the real thing. In 2015, scientists followed a male Florida grasshopper sparrow's buzzing chirps to the nest hidden amid central Florida's prairies and carefully removed only eggs and 5 nestlings, young birds that likely would have died if left in the wild. They also caught 2 independent juvenile birds and a pair of adults to serve as their parents, who could help the captive rearing birds learn how to behave in the wild. So they had a small population. The eggs went to the incubators at a pair of breeding facilities. One was the Rare Species Conservatory in Loxahatchee, Florida, an organization affiliated with Florida International University on the state's Atlantic coast. The other was White Oak Conservation Center in the northeastern Florida. Despite their experience with the other sparrows, the scientists didn't get it right immediately. Figuring out the proper temperature, humidity, and other key details for incubation took a year and required collection of more eggs from the wild. Which is sad. We need every one of these specimens to make it. But on May 9, 2016, the first 4 captive bred Florida grasshopper sparrows chicks hatched in the Rare Species Conservatory Laboratory, an event hailed as a major breakthrough. Meanwhile, the sparrow wild population continued to plunge. By 2018, only 80 birds remained in the wild, including just 20 breeding pairs, says Craig Fallhair, avian conservation coordinator for the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission. If the trend continues, there was a strong possibility for extinctions, he says. State and federal agencies officials consulted with biologists from the National Audubon Society and the Arcole Biological Station in Central Florida. That's all they say in that article. It was really fascinating for me to read this article. It kind of inspired me that if we do nothing, we can expect no results. If we do something, we can almost certainly expect some results. We just have to continue at something long enough until we see the results we're really seeking. And in the case of rare birds, we can't wait till there's only 5 males left to start a breeding program. We have to get in there like we did for the California condors and start the breeding program and releasing individuals back into the wild as soon as we can, so we can conserve and offer ourselves some fail-safes in the systems that we've damaged throughout our ecosystems. My name's Alex. I'm the host of The Great Outdoors. This is your Good Morning Outdoors. I'll see you next time. Peace.